patriotism after the clash of Chinese-Indian troops at Galwan. In such an atmosphere, my opening statement might be a bit of a dampener. As a student of military history, my take on this is there is not going to be a war between India and China, not now or not in any foreseeable future. For the simple reason, neither China wants a war nor India wants a war. These are two largest countries in Asia and the most popular ones in the world. The reason I'm saying, reason why they don't want to fight. They stand too much to lose, both the parties. They stand too much to lose. It's not like some small countries in Europe overrunning another country, Germany overrunning Poland in a week's time. It's not like that. It is inconceivable that any of these, China or India, can conquer the other country and subdue it. It will only be just hitting each other, suffering a lot. Neville Chamberlain's famous statement, in war there are no losers and winners, only losers, becomes most appropriate in case of China and India, and both are aware of it as well. Then why this poking, I would say, by China? Why are they trying this? Especially with this, COVID pandemic problem going on in the world. It's a colonial legacy. China suffers from a terrible sense of insecurity vis-a-vis India. And that's what it is, a colonial legacy. Because for the last 1 century, starting from mid-19th century to until the Second World War was over in 1940s, China has always been at the receiving end. And India was a major player in all that. So there are reasons to fear or even hate Indians. I would like to take you back a little in history to say that. I'll just share a PowerPoint with you. Okay, sure. Right, I'll just put it full screen. Okay, here it is. I'll rush you through this. Afterwards, we can get on to the main talk of it. This is the military engagements with China over centuries. We start with the 1840s, the first China war. This was actually, it's called, as you can see, Opium War, it is called. It is saying Madras Army because it is soldiers from here in Madras who went and defeated the Chinese, a crushing defeat actually. Now it was, we fought under the British flag, all the same, it was actually a sinful act, I would say. The British were trying to sort of convert that country into the Chinese were called opium eaters, and the Mandarins, they're the warlords, they were hand in gloves with these people. The King dynasty, the sovereign trying to control it, never worked out. Ultimately, when they tried to put in their foot and stop this, these people went in, they had this colonial army, absolute professionals, they went and they defeated them. And China was most disorganized. And they got all kinds of, trades, concessions from them, including Hong Kong. In fact, Hong Kong, as you know, is recently only sort of returned by Britain to China, and now probably is going on there. Now here is, now they were not satisfied with that one war. Within years, there was another one because they wanted more concessions. This time, all these Europeans got together. There was an Anglo, French and British were fighting here. From there, they joined hands. Anglophone force went out to fight the second China war. By then, we had this Bengal army going there because, Bengalis had this problem of North Indians, they didn't want to go beyond the seas. I mean, they call it Kalapani. And that stage early, only the Madras soldiers were going abroad and fighting. So the Burma, China, all these conquered by people from here. Those were the days Madras army was the most powerful outfit the British had. And then the second China war extracted more concessions from the Chinese. And look at the countries, humiliated, beaten. So all whatever the foreigners dictate the conditions. And then again, you have this, what they call the Boxer Rebellion. This happened towards the end of the century, of 19th century. Naturally, in a country like this, when, being exploited by outsiders and the weak monarch, there's bound to be a revolution. The revolution took place. There's a corrupt name for a Chinese organization called Wuchuan. These people called it Boxer Rebellion because they were practicing Chinese martial arts. And those are the fighters. In fact, the monarchs, the Dowager Cixi, the King dynasty, she gave her army as well. The army joined these people, and it was a revolution against it's not exactly against the monarch to throw out the foreigners. It was against the foreigners. Now, can you believe that a 9-nation alliance, Britain, France, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Netherlands, Italy, Russia, United States, and Japan, everybody joined. A 5-brigade Indian infantry expeditionary force also joined them. Because where Britain goes, we had to go because under the British rule. You can see, how much India was, all these, 2 of the wars, the first and second was one exclusively by Indian troops. Then again, in this, even when 9-nation force came, the Indian soldiers were there also. So there were all the reasons to hate Indians actually. But then it passed. China was still in turmoil. And then last nail was what we call the Tibetan expedition. Now this Tibetan expedition was actually absolutely uncalled for sort of exercise by the British forces here, or rather the Viceroy, Lord Curzon. He had this, he was paranoid about, those days, the British, and we'll give a little bit of the history behind this. British and the Russians were involved in what they call the Great Game. The British are always worried that, Russians are going to expand. The Russian Empire was on the expansion. They will come through Afghanistan and take India. So that is why they fought 2 Afghan wars. That's for that. Then they come to Tibet and take India. There was some rumor that Peking is going to give away Tibet to Russia. Although Russia themselves denied it. It's not, we have no interest in Tibet. Curzon was paranoid about it. We have to get Tibet. Actually, Tibet was already a de facto protectorate of the British Indian government here. That wasn't enough. And then there were a very ambitious character called Francis' young husband. This guy wanted to make a name for himself. So he led an expedition. There was an officer, of course, an army general was given to the military part, even as a commissioner to Tibet. And Tibet had no forces, they could hardly fight. They tried to put up a fight, and in fact, the Indian soldier, the British Indian force which went from here, they had all the modern weaponry and they were so well trained. It was no match, it was no fight. In fact, at one stage, they created a situation to show there's a fight because those people are running away. And one British young officer who watched that, when these troops opened fire with machine gun and these people getting butchered, he said, I wish I never had to, watch something in my life when people are running away and they're shooting. That kind of brutality these people did. Unfortunately, our troops are also part of it. And then they went to Tibet. Ironically, Dalai Lama ran away from there. The last time when Chinese invaded later on, Dalai Lama ran to India. That time he ran out to Peking. So when that happened, this young husband in his own words, forced a treaty down the throats of the Tibetans, with all conditions suiting India, or rather Britain, that is British India. British guys never thought they're going to go from here. That was their intention of making defense of India so strong. And they came back, but then they were leaving a wound for perpetuity. That's what we will come on to later in the modern day happening. You can just keep that in mind. This is what happened in Tibet. There's a beginning of Tibetan problem. Afterwards, we had World War II. Now, World War II, we didn't do anything to the Chinese. In fact, we were our saviors. But then again, during the war, they were literally trampled by the Japanese. We know it. It was Indians ultimately, although these were Japanese were also fighting under American General Stilwell. It is the Indian, the British Indian Army, fought in the army of William Slim, which defeated the Japanese and threw them back to the sea in the end. So the image they have of the Indian army, the Chinese as such, it is, they were literally overawed by this army which could defeat the Japanese who had defeated them. I mean, even the Western forces who were fighting, they were overawed by the Indian army. I mean, this is something which only came out later because the Lord Auchinleck, the last chief, ultimately admitted that but for the Indian army, we could have never won the war. Not only the Second World War, but even the First World War. That's old history. But in Second World War, this is what happened. Ultimately, the Japanese were defeated by the Indians. You can imagine the kind of impression the Chinese have about Indian soldiers. That takes us to the infamous 1962 war. This is what is in the psyche of every Indian now. We were defeated by the Chinese because even I was a young boy, when, not a young boy, teenager, when this 62 war happened. So we got it because Second World War, whatever our army has been doing is all old story. This Sino-Indian war has got onto the psyche of almost all Indians who came after that Chinese were able to defeat us. They were not able to defeat us. As some authors said, this was a war that was in. This war was never fought. You can say somebody is defeated or won a war, only the war is fought. Indian army never fought. They were made not to fight. This was quite a shame, the failure on the part of the Indian government and military brass as well, top brass. It's, you see what triggered this war. I mean, that is why I was telling the history. It is the impression Chinese had of India is Indian army. They were fearful of the army. I mean, if you do something, you might come and overrun you. They suffered during these 100 years, and we might any belligerence on the part of India. They were actually worried, and their army had expanded, the PLA, People's Liberation Army, and they were having problems with the, immediately after the independence. I mean, both countries became independent more or less the same time. We all know that history. The Chinese attitude at that stage was more or less conciliatory. They were suggesting this so-called McMahon line, which is, the entire border, 4,000 odd miles or so across on the northern border, kilometers rather. It was never demarcated properly. It was all, through a watershed, this, that, and for example, where it is happening now, Aksai Chin, which Chinese claim for on the Ladakh, that side. That initially there was a Johnson line, William Johnson, he made a line, including Bangkok Lock and lake, and huge area covering Aksai Chin. Later on, I mean, there was a revolution going on in Xinjiang at that time. No Chinese authority came, nobody saw it, nobody endorsed it. Then the British found, they cannot guard so far out borders, so made another line inside, leaving someplace outside, leaving Aksai Chin in China as Chinese territory, and made another line, McCartney-McDonald line. Now Chinese claim they only accept that because they had seen this. That time there was no revolution. They had seen this, sort of agreement made at that time. So there's a lot of ambiguity about it. That's what I'm trying to say. So they were trying to sort of sort it out at that stage, initially. And what pragmatic attitude the government, the Indian establishment would have taken is, after all, we are now two independent countries. They may be communist and we are democratic, okay, fine. But to have an acceptable agreement between us and, considering they are our neighbor. Now, the Indian establishment had a problem. Ironically, I mean, I don't take any political sides because but then in a thing like this, you have to name people. Nehru was the prime minister. I don't mean to demean him. He was a great man, but the point is, militarily, he was a disaster. Now, military naivety combined with an imperialistic attitude. You see, the British had left, but he still considered, we are having that imperialistic attitude of the British here. At least if they had the attitude, they were doing something to defend the borders. But here he left it. In fact, after independence, when he was asked by the British man himself, who was the chief at that time, what should be our military doctrine? He said, what military doctrine? We don't need a doctrine. We have no enemies. The man was shocked. Such a huge country like India saying that we don't need a military doctrine. Of course, we was to learn it the hard way. Now, we could even do without the army. Police could do the job. Can you believe that? I mean, this is what happened. On one side, at the same time, he was saying, he sent a note to Chowdhury saying that whatever line has been drawn, there will be no compromise on that. That will stand good. Instead of listening, and at the same time, as this was going on, the Eastern Army Chief, General Thorat, they were sending input saying that, there is Chinese, we must prepare defenses, our borders are not safe. So since India was taking a rigid stand like this, they were moving their troops. I mean, they still had not really, made up their mind to, or they didn't have, they were not that prepared. Although we still had World War winded weapons and not ready to serve, not in a fit condition to fight. But the Chinese image of the Indian army was such, they didn't want to sort of start a war at that stage. Then we ourselves gave the catalyst. Nehru said, since they're mobilizing forces coming, he went in for a forward policy called put pickets across the international boundary. Almost every general in the field advised against it, don't do it. Because apart from violating the international boundary, we are, these positions are not defensible. No, he won't listen. And then he didn't want to listen professionals. He fostered a general of his own called Call, who had never, no battle experience, no combat experience. Unlike General Thorat, who was a Second World War veteran, Timaya was, they won't listen to them. And we all know what happened. That's what I'm saying, it was war that was in. If only even the Indian Army was badly outnumbered, but those soldiers, if still they were given firm orders, you hold the positions, they will hold. That is what Indian Army is made of. But they were not told. They were told to withdraw. They were told to shift. I mean, they were shuffled around. So then when orders, inconsistent orders, troops are being moved around, the proper lack of command and control, no army can fight. As they say, there are no good soldiers and bad soldiers. There are only good commanders and bad commanders. So, I mean, I'm not blaming the political leadership alone. The Indian, the military leadership also became pliant. The bottom level leadership is good, but the top, this man, called handling it, it is all in a mess. Now, there's another part which no one has thought about is also there. Our own troops, actually, even when the Chinese were moving, our Indian soldiers, they were not really bothered. They were quite overconfident. They were all veterans of Second World War. You know, they had fought the Germans, they had fought the Japanese, they had fought the Italians. I mean, Chinese had shown no great fight in them. I mean, there was nothing which compared with the Indian Army, two world wars and the largest volunteer armies in the world. You know, they practically won 2 world wars. They didn't consider Chinese anywhere near equal to them. The only major war Chinese fought was in Korea, and that was a stalemate. And I mean, the British and American troops were fighting. They were all tired after the Second World War. There was such low morale. Britain had this national security, what they called national security recruitment, something. They brought in soldiers who didn't want to fight. Somehow, the Korean War ended in a stalemate, and it was all ceasefire and all. This was in the major victory for China. Chinese troops fought there. That is all the battle experience they had compared with what Indian troops were. The result was the Indian soldiers, they had a very low, opinion of the Chinese troops. In fact, the common term going around Indian soldiers are Afimis. Afim is the word for opium. These Afim eaters, what do they fight? And I'm not blaming the soldiers, but this is, the typical soldierly thing. Afim pe kya karega? That kind of attitude they also had. But when it came to the fight, Chinese were not just fighting, they're just cannon fodder, they're just throwing in men. And so much of fire, so much of men, with these troops, without proper orders, outnumbered. Well, I'll give you one example. One of our own, nearby, because I was doing a lot of research on the Madras regiment. The first Madras, a unit which had excelled itself in Second World War and in Kashmir War, with a lot of decorations. This was, in fact, the last unit to pull out of Bomdila, the last bastion which he left. But the Chinese were rushing in and in. Bomdila was first Madras, and one Sikalai unit was holding it. Sikalai got orders, they were able to pull out later. These people, they were brought in from Nagaland, from another place. They don't even know the area. They're lodged on a hill, and a lot of huge numbers Chinese coming. They're holding the place. No orders. Ultimately, they send somebody to find out, a patrol with the JCO to find out. There's no link with the brigade headquarters. They found the brigade headquarters, nobody there. They're all alone. If you look at that, I mean, they were just fend for themselves, and they tried to sort of find a route out. They are too easy, and something like 20 soldiers. Because by the time Chinese had encircled the unit completely, something like 20 soldiers and not a butcher running into an ambush. And there's some 180 officers, I mean, the men, the officers had to surrender. So this is the kind of war that 62 was. And of course, our administration learned a lesson. We started, building up our defenses, our new weapons were given. By the time 67, you all know it, 1967, they tried another incursion in Matula. And they got a bloody nose, because this is a resurgent army with all the, we had new equipment, we were ready, and 4 days fighting. Chinese suffered a defeat that is little known. We only know about 62, we suffered a defeat. 67, we beat them. So afterwards, our army has been only, not at the pace it should, but the army has been getting new weapons, and we were improving our, better training. We were better prepared for any enemy coming from there. And Chinese also didn't try anything. But they kept on this, some problem or other. Like 2017, we had a Doklam standoff. So they had to create some problem. This was only, the basic aim of this was just to keep India on the toes, so that, you don't take any aggressive action against China. You don't align yourself with, because China was trying to be a superpower, and India was, although not that level, but India was probably the next. We were in competition, so they had to keep India, curbed. This was the Chinese policy. They had no intention of fighting, and they knew the fight. They cannot defeat Indian army and come across. What they achieved in 62 was just a fluke. In fact, even then, in 62 itself, if you look at it, they had no intention of, they had no sort of objective of taking any area in India. They were claiming this. Tawang, for example, in Arunachal Pradesh, Nepal. One sore point they have is Tawang was originally part of Tibet, so it should come to us. Actually, Tawang, in 62, with all the withdrawals, Tawang came in their custody. When they came up to Tezpur, and later on they withdrew on their own. If Tawang was theirs, why did they go back? So their intention was only to show that, we want to sort of, we will give you trouble, we want to sort of, we can do this, show their might. Because again, that's a kind of insecurity. Why do they have to show the might if the army is good? The army is, this is more of a politicized army which won a revolution, okay. Not the one which has been groomed in such professional manners as ours are. So what I'm trying to say is the northern border. Later on, we had this Siachen problem, we had this thing. Today, we have the finest mountain army in the world, I would say. The soldiers who are fighting in Siachen, they're so hardened fighting in high altitude. And so many of them, over the years, so many soldiers who got trained. So in mountain warfare, there's hardly any army in the world which can beat us. And China very well knows it. Beating the Indian army and getting across the Himalayan border is out of question. So then why would they try that? And then now they've tried this. Okay, we will come to, so that is Sino-Indian War. We haven't come further than, we have to come to this present standoff. Right. Now, the present standoff to come to, I've been dwelling too much on history. This is, for those of you who may not know, in this map shows where this Aksai Chin is. Now, to repeat that Aksai Chin's history a little bit, Aksai Chin is actually Chinese administered. Status quo as of now, that's why it's shown in different color. It's Chinese administered. It has been under Chinese administration even in the British times. After independence also, because this is, in fact, they call it white rock, or the meaning of Aksai Chin is white rocks or white desert, something like that. It is, nobody wants it, the land, wasteland. So no one bothered. And with no outposts or anything there, not occupation, Chinese were administering it. So they even made a road, 1,200 kilometers road from connecting Tibet. Tibet comes on the, if you see the thing, okay, eastern part of this Ladakh. To the west is Xinjiang district. To connect that, they made a 1,200 kilometers road. Some 170 odd kilometers of that goes through the Aksai Chin, technically through Indian territory. They were doing it early from 1950s, they started. India didn't even come to know about it until 1957. So after that, only Nehru sent but he didn't mention anything about the road, but our territory, this is the border. Border means that road is going through our. So this is how it started, and then, they tried to, while in Nepal they achieved success, considerable success taking Tawang and all. It didn't happen in the west. In Ladakh, they were stopped on their tracks at the place called Razangla Pass. That is, behind that was the Chushul airport. Some of you may know, the Gallan last stand made by Unit 13 Kumo, and that is where Major Shaitan Singh, he sort of made the supreme sacrifice, and he got honored with the Paramvir Chakra and all. Now, this is near the Pangong Lake area of in southeastern Aksai Chin, or rather Ladakh. These are the areas they couldn't come in. They only came up to that place, and at the end of the war, we made what we called a LAC, line of actual control. So today, the entire thing, border became line of actual control. That's what is here. With Pakistan, we have LOC, line of control. Now, this, you've seen Aksai Chin. Now, this is what I call the road of contention, because this road was recently made. Because this is the last outpost India has, Daulat Beg Oldi. From Leh, this is Darbuk. From Darbuk to, they made this a road going all the way. It's called DBO road. Darbuk, Shayok, Daulat Beg Oldi road. Construction of this road helped the Chinese, because Chinese are up to this place. There, for them, linking with Pakistan is very, very significant because of their, Belt and Road Initiative and all this. Pakistan is in their back. Last night, this particular area, you see, this is actually occupied Kashmir, which we then again, we all know the history. When the Indian Army was winning, Nehru with the United Nations, and this remained with them. Others would have taken it back. Now this is Pakistani occupied Kashmir, and this portion they gave up to China. This is actually ours. Pakistan gifted. There it is. So these people from Aksai Chin, when we make a road like this, they cannot connect with Pakistan. That is what I told. So they have to stop this road. Now, this is one of the reasons. that triggered the trouble here. They wanted to sort of bring in, but they didn't succeed. In fact, right under fire, our engineers completed this. There was a bridge to be completed. They completed it. I'll show you that later. Now, let's come to this is where the trouble is going on. See, there are three friction points there. One is the Pangong Tso here. You see, this is the lake. Here, hot springs. I'll tell you the three friction points. And Galwan. Galwan is here. Okay? There's a finger area here, as they call it. I'll show you the map of that. Finger area, these hot springs, these three spots, here we had this trouble going on. Now, Galwan trouble. We'll have a closer look at that. See, these are the fingers, 8 fingers saying. This generally happens this area between 2 and 4 fingers, this trouble. You can see the terrain. This is just to show what deadly terrain it is like. This is what the Galwan River is. You got a 3-dimensional image here. Now here, we come to the actual conflict. Okay. You can see this line. This is where Indian Army is, this is the line where India claims up to this, it belongs to them. You can see India claims till this line. Okay. China claims till this line. You can see the problem. See, they're overlapping. They're saying it is up to this place. These people are saying up to this place. Now, this, in military terms, it becomes no man's land that way. They both are, this is the agreed non-disputed area of China till this place, non-disputed area of India till here. They both are here. So this no man's land. China made a move here. You see, India base was here, China made a base here. Now, this is a little, they've been having this base, but I personally feel this could have been stopped. I do not know. I don't want to sort of, sit far away from the battlefield and theorize the thing. But this base came here. It should have been stopped right then, right when it happened. Now, they came and set up a camp here. And now they were coming in too far. And this is the camp. They went and removed it. And, you're all reading in the papers, this clash happened and all that. Because there was already agreement of that, they will not point weapons at each other. All these news of people not carrying weapons are carrying, but, they were, as for the agreement that the soldier is not supposed to open fire without proper orders. Because when in a conflict zone, when an agreement is reached between government, soldiers, they got to obey the orders. So naturally, it ended up in a fisticuff and later on, a deadly brawl, which brought all these casualties. This is what has happened. Now, afterwards, both, as you can read, both Indian and Chinese side are saying, we are trying to de-escalate, we are trying to solve the problem. Why so? If this has happened, many are thinking, why not we take aggressive action? That is what I was saying in the beginning of the talk. Neither India nor China wants to fight. Because these are two huge countries with too much to lose. And rightly so. If they can sort it out, that's very good. So we got a very, very complicated situation. We got an enemy who is poking, who is creating problems, but who doesn't want to really have a war. Why does he do it? Especially with this COVID pandemic gripping the world, why do they want to create a military situation here? There are a very, very clear strategy on China's side in this. Initially, when I told about 62 and all, it was a question of Chinese feeling insecure for, Indian army may invade or all kinds of things. But things have changed. Chinese military has grown. Now their insecurity is something else. They're competing with the US. They want to be the world leaders, economically, a giant. Where India, it's not the economic competition. With this, especially now with this COVID-19 under pressure, they have become, every other country is blaming them. They don't want India to join hands with US or, give them any kind of support. So unless we might trouble you, we are here to sort of trouble you, the intimidating India not to join, not to ally with US or anyone. That is one of the objectives, to put pressure. Now, one, to intimidate. Second, to make sure that, the moment you have a problem like this, they're going to move troops, you got to have military spending more, which means Indian economy suffers. So they have two crooked objectives there. Now that it doesn't stop there as well. See, Chinese thinking has become very, very cunning. When they're having a trouble on northern border, they're not thinking about northern border. They're thinking about the oceans. That's what the problem is. China's real fear is about the Indian Ocean. Because tomorrow there is a war with India or any major war, or in fact, all their trade routes go through Indian Ocean. Compared with their navy, our navy is far too small, but still it's quite capable of choking China, their trade routes. Now, China's latest nightmare in their defense equation with India is an enlarged Indian Navy. That is their nightmare. If Indian Navy expands, Chinese just about had it. They already formed this pearl of, string of pearls around, the Yaotin, Horn of Africa. They created a, sort of base. So they're trying to encircle the entire Indian peninsula. But then here it is, Indian Navy, a threat to them. And that if that enlarges, China's all ambitions are sort of smashed. Now, by creating problem here, they're making the defense budget as it is. Let's look at our budget. As of now, little over 15% only goes to the Navy. Some 25% goes to the Air Force. I'm just giving the rough figures. Nearly 60% goes to the Army. Look at that. We need a Navy probably bigger than the Indian, because you look at our coastline, we need a much bigger Navy. And mind you, before the independence, this was the entire Indian peninsula was protected by the Royal Navy. This was the most powerful maritime force known to the world until then. Now, of course, US has replaced them. But now, once the Royal Navy is no more there, Indian Navy, the size of the Indian Navy is hardly comparable. But still, they're doing a magnificent job. If you ask me, I mean, they stopped, it was a gallant stand they made against 7th Fleet during 71. That's another part of the naval gallant history. They knocked the whole Karachi harbor out. But still, look at their size. We need much, much bigger Navy. And Chinese want to stop that. Look at what a convoluted thinking. You make them spend more on army, more confrontation on the northern border means more artillery, more guns, even tanks are moved up in Leh. So we keep spending on Navy, Army. Navy doesn't get their due share. That's one. So they're planning. So they keep on creating this problem. And you can, India will never move forward. Neither in defense nor in economic progress now. What are our options? This is where, I don't know, this is what I'm going to sort of opine here, project here, is something, it's a, that's why when I said this is a historical as well as a common sense perspective, because what I'm going to say is only a matter of common sense, which not only me, various military thinkers seem to be thinking the right way. Basically, we got to call their bluffs. So we will poke you, we'll give you trouble. All right, we will give you trouble as well. We don't want a war. We're also not fighting a war, but we won't make your life easy as well. So how do you do it? One of the basic strategies with armies use, any military we use, is open new fronts. It might sound a little fantastic, but we should make a move as if we plan to liberate Tibet. Why not? Make a move, something like we are planning to take, heading for Lhasa. At one point, when I told you about, we said we are the finest mountain troops, and we were an impregnable northern border. I'm quite convinced about that. So we have. One thing I didn't mention there is our air power. Our Air Force, as a matter of fact, at the moment, this again, when I told about 62 also, I forgot, being an army man. Sorry, I left the Air Force out. In 62, we had despite the setbacks the ground troops suffered, we had an excellent chance of reversing the situation if only we had used our Air Force. Those days, Chinese Air Force was nothing much to write home about. Whereas our Air Force had bases near the border, and it was after having fought in Second World War as well as in Kashmir War, it's a very highly combat efficient Air Force. And we could have struck terror and all their supply lines could have been disrupted. And many people, rather pacifist and all, I heard saying that if the Indian Air Force had been used, the Chinese Air Force would have bombed countries. I mean, you see, this is the kind of, what should I say? I wouldn't say cowardly, a sort of meek attitude, which many of our, the political class, or I would say, this has been bred into our so-called intellectual class and all, have this pacifism, a meek attitude. They may bomb. How much of that? Our Air Force can also bomb. I mean, if their supply lines all the way could have been disrupted and Chinese troops wouldn't have, they would have been, they couldn't have made such, the incursion that they made in 62, with all their supply lines cut, the troop movements disrupted. Air Force was in excellent way. In fact, our fighters were ready and waiting. They held back. Hold your horses, you're not fighting. Nehru said, no. What will the world think? I mean, kind of thing, you'll escalate the war. They're already in your country and fighting. Who will think we escalate? We should have hit out. Anyway, that is, when people like me say that, we'll say we are warmongers. It's not warmongers. This is what we should have done. And then we come to current situation. I don't know much about, I'm not a Air Force expert or air strategist, but from what I've generally read, I understand we are more or less balanced, the air power. At least compared with the army and position, PLA is very big. Our Air Force is, at least as for the northern border goes, is more or less matching the Chinese, even superior at times. Maybe we are lacking some surveillance equipment and things like that to make up. So, if that is one thing, another, apart from this, our mountain troops and our impregnable frontier we have of mountains, we have an Air Force which is capable of blocking any move by Chinese. So what I'm saying is, it is not to sort of put in a false sense of security or something. We are quite safe there. Nobody is going to come in, and India is too powerful now for a Chinese or anybody to come in and take us. And in any case, the Indian Army and the Indian forces It is not like, US bombed and went into Iraq and, they all ran away. This is not Indian Army. Even during 71, when, US made all these moves, Manekshaw very clearly said, US troops want to land here, we can assure you defeat. And we would have done that. We are too good. I mean, as a matter of fact, it's not the kind of army that gives up, or all forces. So we are comfortable that your only problem, what I want to stress is only these chaps keep on coming with this kind of nuisance. This nuisance can only be stopped by giving them nuisance. Say that we are opening a frontier. We are, the Uttaranchal, Himachal Pradesh, all those places. I'm sure there are a lot of points which are vulnerable, where we can, we can make an incursion. Say that, you do that, we do this. Tit for tat. So we must have the political and the military will. Military has lacks no will, but the political will to do this, and we'll do it. That is one. We have yet another one. This is more for our intelligence agencies like RAW and all. It's time they sort of earn their salary. What I would think would be right is, for Taiwan. Taiwan is at loggerheads with Chinese, and we should clandestinely, if required, supply them missile technology, arm them, help them to take on the Chinese. We could do that the same thing with, China, the 91% population is, as they call Han, as the, the majority there. Like Hindus are the majority population, their Hans are 91%. There are a lot of minorities there. They don't get minorities, favorable treatment like we do, look after a minority. Wherever the minorities, whether it's Tibetans, in Xinjiang, the Uyghurs, they call it, then Manchuria, they're trying to send in the Han, they're trying to Hanize the whole place. The Hans are going in and populating the place. In various places, the low ethnic population has become a minority in those places, with the Hans going in. So there's terrific resentment among these minorities in China. They can rise up anytime if only they get the incentive from somewhere. And that is what we should provide. Why not? See, your enemy is, the old Chanakya saying goes very well, your enemy is my friend. Why not? See, all this, the statecraft is not for this, what you call soft order. When it comes to sort of sorting out an enemy, we got to teach him a lesson. We got to keep him in his place. So you do this. I mean, I'm saying this. It's a common sense perception. China cannot hit us in any big way. They can only create this nuisance thing. That can be countered by giving it back to them. Once they find you behave, they will also behave. I wonder whether our strategists will think on those lines. We need to do that. I would say even with Pakistan creating all these problems. I mean, we keep on having a. In fact, when what's the time like? Am I taking too long? Okay. So when this scandal happened, we all know it was a shame. We could, quite a few people thought, we could take a military action. Why? I mean, why were you so hesitant? Even Israel has done such things. We could, there were, in fact, we charted out a plan. We had Iranian ports, we had Central American, Asian republics. From there, we could launch. We should have threatened Afghanistan with the invasion. If our paratroops landed in Kabul, what would they do? It is thinking out of the box and very aggressive thinking, but we should. When the situation comes like that, we should have. We could have had to risk the lives of our 180 people on board, and for that, we have to prepare people. This is what we call when if a nation has to prove itself powerfully. We talk about, we had the right from after independence. We have been talking about peaceful coexistence and, all kinds of Vasudhaiva Kudumbam policies you're talking. It's all fine. It's all very well, provided we are talking from a position of power, which we are not. When we are talking, we are showing ourselves as a weak-kneed nation, a soft state. Everybody will give you trouble. You look at our neighbors, small neighbors saying that, Nepal said something, this chap said something. What is that? So, in fact, one Israeli correspondent had said, why the Indians aren't bothered, the people will keep dying every day. They don't do anything about it. So in Pakistan, many people say Pakistan it's very good. Pakistan has to, we should keep a dialogue going, and we have nothing against the Pakistani people. It's only Pakistani military agenda we are against. But we should look at ways and means how the agenda can be disbanded. Like it happened in Bangladesh, in Balochistan, we must try to create another Bangladesh. Why not create problems within Pakistan? And if our intelligence agencies, I really wonder, why can't we knock off this leadership? Many of these chaps, we are talking about, we are going to UNO, declaring this thing. Why not kill him? You see, that is what many countries are doing. If our India's enemies should not be safe anywhere. So it is time we thought like a strong country. We are strong. Only thing is that we are not exercising our strength. We don't have to be the strongest in the world. It is, and at times it is required, in scenarios like this, to join hands with some nations who are friendly to us. It may not be always, like in politics, I say there are no permanent friends and permanent foes. It keeps changing, but you got to. Like, for example, we at the moment, the Navy cannot take on the whole Chinese might if something happens. You have to ally with US Navy or Australian Navy, New Zealand Navy, all those people who are, supportive of us. So we got to look at various options. How we can keep our enemy under pressure instead of them keeping us under pressure. So we have nothing to worry. As far as our armed forces go, our, sort of potential to fight go, these are people, just remember, these are the armies which won 2 world wars. Right now, they're accepting it. Even the Germans, in watching our soldiers in First World War, they had said, initially, they had ridiculed the British, saying that they're bringing coolies to fight us, about the Indian soldiers. But when the coolies landed up there, and the Germans had a shock of their life, they said, these brownies can really fight. So this is from the enemy. that is the best accolade a force can get. And look at that. Most of we know the Japanese are thrown out by us. Something many people don't know is, the Japanese have put such fear of God in the Western troops. As the Allied troops, the Indian soldiers had to be among their ranks to fight the Japanese in the air. The Japanese thought, the masters of the jungle, and we disproved them. So there's so much about it is on these traditions the Indian Army, Indian Armed Forces go. We have not even never known defeat, except for this so-called war that was not, as Shivkulam Verma has called it, named his book. It's the war that wasn't in 62. So we have nothing to fear. We only got a proper, as I said once earlier, there are no good soldiers and bad soldiers. There are only good commanders and bad commanders. In fact, I would go one further up, say there are good soldiers, like Indian soldiers. They're too good. We only need leadership, military as well as political, to keep up with them. It is not their keeping. The question is not whether they can keep up, it is the leadership can keep up. Now, I still remember Sam Manaksha, who was like officers like me who were commissioned in the 60s and 70s, he was quite a role model for us. In fact, Manaksha was our reviewing officer for my passing out parade that we were doing that. I still remember his words. addressing his young cadets passing out. He said, gentlemen, you are privileged to command some of the finest troops in the world. Go and be successful commanders. And then, of course, he goes on this, habitual jokes and all. I don't want to hold you for your girlfriends, your wives are waiting, go and things like that. He finishes on, but I never forget what he said. There were, and in my service in the army and through one war in 71, I'm physically convinced that these are really good, brave soldiers. Indian soldiers are not the type who will run away. You might hear in Western books and all, when you read your timidity, soldiers crying, running away. No, it's not with, I didn't fight with Indian soldiers. They'll stand by you. I mean, they only need leadership. They don't expect huge physical power from you or anything, but they expect you to be intelligent. They expect you to be fair. They can depend on your saab for to give you to lead you, give proper decisions, be decisive, and all that. That's all what is needed. In fact, in a book I read, Western correspondent during First World War, and our soldiers are very compassionate also, mind you. It's not, there is not a single case of our soldiers going anywhere and, raping or looting, although unnecessarily stories are made up about Sri Lanka, that's unfortunate. But, for example, in Italy, there's a place where, there's still sort of a naval, port of call. The naval officer was surprised when, the whole village turned up because, they're still remembering the Indian soldiers of the Second World War, how decent they were. The other soldiers trying to trouble their women, these people go and save them. In fact, one of the most interesting episodes I read in a book on First World War is a British correspondent, Western correspondent, watching a huge Sardar soldier in First World War, very huge Sardar, holding a German lad who was weeping. He was taken prisoner. The German guy was young chap, he was weeping. This Sardar patting and saying, Daro nahi, Daro nahi. Now, whether the guy understands the meaning or not, but the sense is conveyed. So these are compassionate men who fought world wars for reason, and that too under a regime which is not giving freedom to our country. Why did they fight? Because their passion, their commitment is to their families of an Indian soldier. Then and now, it is the commitment of Indian soldier to his family. In World Wars, he fought because their families had to be fed, and when they come back, they want to come with a good name. And today also, an Indian soldier never wants his family to think he was anything lesser than the best. And I would say an Indian soldier is always better than the best. Thank you.
That was an excellent session, sir. We all thoroughly enjoyed. And I open